have in front of me here an omnidirectional FM aerial, and I'm just going to give an overview of how to assemble this aerial. And basically, because the aerial is more or less fully assembled when you purchase it, it comes just like this. Really what we mean in this case is just how to wire it, okay? So I'll start off first of all by just mentioning the tools I'm going to need for this assembly process. So we have a sharp pair of snips here. We have a flathead screwdriver, a 10mm socket and ratchet, or a 10mm spanner you could use, but the socket is certainly better. And I'll just at this point quickly mention the other accessories we could use at this point in terms of equipment that we'd need to use with it, consumables. So we'd have things like this bracket here for mounting onto the wall and holding this bracket. We would have these cable ties, cable clips here. We'll also have these plugs and bolts for mounting the bracket onto the wall, and then 20 meters of RG6 cable. And then the final thing I'll mention here is this coaxial connector here, which we would use for connecting it into maybe a radio distribution system, whatever. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just start off. So how is this actually mounted on a pole? Well, what we actually use here is we use the bracket here in the center, and we just push a pole or a bracket on at this point here, and we can loosen off this to allow a wider pole, or tighten in them by tightening it in with our 10mm socket that I showed you earlier. So you clamp this into position. Now prior to that, you'd come along and we just squeeze off this plastic cap that's here. So it just clips into place, and you can just pull it off. And when we look inside here, we can see the following, which is that there's a wire. On one side we need to wire the core wire from our RG6 cable, and on the other side the earth wire that go on the outside, the braiding. So what I'm going to do here is I just take off this elastic band here. The elastic band is purely there to stop the screws from falling out. So we just loosen this off by hand, and I'm going to lean down and pick up this length of RG6 cable which we have here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm simply going to push this through the slot here before I do anything further. So we just push the cable, or pull the cable through like this. And what we'll do now is we simply come along and we're going to pare this down. So I cut through the outer sheet on this, and then I do a cut at 90 degrees, and we'll simply pare down the cable this way. What we do next here is we pull off this silver foil, which is not needed. What I'm going to do is I'm simply going to wrap the outer braiding to make a single cable from it. And I repeat the same process here, or of cutting through dielectric here, all the way through, and now we have a core wire here. So what we'll do at this particular point in time is we'll come along, we'll push through this core wire here, and we can simply get in the position to tighten it in. Now it doesn't matter whether we choose the right or the left wire at this point, simply because what I'll actually do, maybe it'll work out slightly more efficient for me, is if I come along and I'll do the earthing wires first. So we simply slide it in. So you know, I'll double it back a little bit. And pull it through like this. What we want to do here is we want to just screw this down, lock it in. All we want to do is just repeat the same process for the core wire in the center. So we just rotate it around like this and just tighten it in again. Now the key points here is that we want to make absolutely certain that there's no core and braiding wires touching each other, because this is called signal things, and we want to make sure that the overhang is sufficient that it's touching the core wire or something like that, or the screw there. So we just want it exactly as on the tin there. And what we need to do, this is the only point where we need to be quite careful, is we need to slide this cap back on, but we want to do so in a thing that's not going to damage the wires. Okay, so we just slide it along like this, and you'll see we've made a decision here, and then we just screw this back down like this. So that's there. And what we'll do at that point then is we deliberately are feeding the wire inwards, because what we want to do is we'll probably be running the wire down along by the cable, or by the we can tie wrap the cable down along by this point, and then obviously we'll be meeting a pole at this point, and we'll tie the cable in there, and that's it. So I'm somewhat restricting your view maybe, but that's it. So you can see anyway, this is it's fully wired, and at that stage then we'd simply run this cable inside, put the coaxial connector on it, and that you'll have it fully assembled and installed. So that's it anyway, an overview of how to assemble an omnidirectional FM aerial.